You're listening to CinemaJaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is...
Rye the Movie Guy, and sitting alongside us, as always, is Fill Me In Phil.
Hello, hello, hello.
This week on CinemaJaw, Matt, we take a deep dive to go swimming with the fishes as we cover our top 5 favorite fish movies, and that is not counting sharks. JawHeads, no shark movies. That would be too easy. We're talking fish.
Too easy. Ryan, my question for you is, do you like to go fishing? Is that a thing that Rye the Movie Guy does?
I've been fishing, all my life as a kid, talking, at a small lake. But I went on an actual fishing trip, like a big boy fishing trip, up on the border of Minnesota and Canada last year. And I hated it. I hurled off the side of the boat. But I did catch some good-sized fish,
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Here's my suspicion.
No trophies, as they call it, but I did get some fish.
You can't be quiet for that long. That's what I suspect.
I was yapping.
You scared the fishes away. Come on, man.
Yeah. Do you go out on a big boat and fish?
No, hell no. No, I've never caught a fish in my life. Never.
Well, it was good times for when you're actually catching a fish. It is fun. But we're going under the sea and talking the fish, Matt, because we got a big review that you were looking forward to.
I was. The Little Mermaid. And don't lie and say you weren't looking forward to it too. It is the 2023 remake, live action, and we're excited to talk about it.
Yes. Besides that, I got out, believe this, Matt, to my first ever Fast and Furious movie, Fast X. Didn't even bother, and we'll get into this when we talk about it, didn't even bother catching up with the series, reading anything about it. I just went in cold, and I'm going to let the JawHeads know of my experience of seeing my first Fast and Furious movie.
So is the X for 10? This is the 10th entry?
I believe so, but I'm not even sure, because everything's X nowadays, right? It's like X Twitter, it's X everything, Sirius XM, X everything. So I don't know. I think it is the 10th, though.
The X stands for extreme, right?
Ooh, it does. Extreme. Jane Fonda fact this week. It is Jane Fonda month on CinemaJaw, and I hope we do have something extreme, and I wasn't just teasing the JawHeads. What do we got, Phil?
Jane Fonda has been married multiple times. One of the more iconic ones is her marriage to media tycoon Ted Turner, who, to put it lightly, is very, very loaded. Like, we're talking big time bucks. I found out Forbes estimated his net worth at $2.4 billion. And
that's a little.
It didn't, obviously things didn't work out between those two. And Jane Fonda did get a pretty piece of that pie in their divorce settlements. Media reports have put the sum of Fonda's settlement in the ballpark of $40 million, which I think is more than all three of us combined are going to make in our lifetimes.
Oh, hey, man, I don't know about that. CinemaJaw is just getting started, Phil. We're only 15 years in. Come on.
Matt, you got $35 million you didn't tell me and Ryan about? What the heck? What the heck? Ryan's only gone fishing once. What the hell?
Sooner or later, he'll hook that treasure chest, and we're all set.
Not if he keeps bailing on his family. Enough goofs. Turner himself admitted in a 2012 interview with The Hollywood Reporter that breakup was incredibly difficult for him. However, he let go after writing the check. This is a quote. "I couldn't do anything else," he said. "What am I supposed to do? Sit down and cry? I did for 6 months. And after that, you just gotta go on," which I give him credit for, because I'll sit down and cry for longer than 6 months and give nobody money. But maybe that's why. Maybe I should just start giving people money when I'm sad. Do you think that's a panacea?
Yeah, I think it's a panacea, for sure. Seems to be. I mean, dude, it's got to be hard to break up with Jane Fonda. Let's just say she's a catch. I kind of feel for him. I do. But she got back to acting after that relationship.
I didn't mention at the top that no guest, Stump the Kubinski, in honor of Fast and the Furious, will be playing actors who have appeared in the Fast and Furious franchise movie trivia.
All right, I'm in. I'm going to be stumped, I'm sure, because I don't know anything about the Fast and the Furious, but here we go.
So, Matt, let's get to this review. The Little Mermaid coming out this coming Friday. We got a chance to see it rather early. Let's talk about it.
All right. About 34 years after the animated classic comes the Rob Marshall-helmed live-action remake of Disney's The Little Mermaid. As per usual, controversies and cast gripes swirled. And all the while, we were asking ourselves, do we even need another live-action remake? Fair to say, skepticism was high for this one. So how did it actually do where the flipper hits the sea? Would Ryan and I be part of that world? We took a deep dive under the sea to find out. Let's dispense with the suspense. Disney's remake of The Little Mermaid is good. In fact, it shocked me at how much I enjoyed the hell out of it. There are some flaws, and we'll get to those, but first and foremost, this film exceeded my admittedly low expectations by a mile. Turns out, remaking a hit is a decent strategy, as I found myself with chills during some of the familiar musical numbers. I had forgotten just how much I loved the original. The credit largely belongs to Halle Bailey, who plays Ariel. She has an otherworldly quality to her that perfectly suits the mermaid character, and a set of pipes to go along with it. Melissa McCarthy is also perfect as Ursula the Sea Witch, and belts out poor unfortunate souls with gusto. I was sold, Rye. Rounding out the cast is Jonah Hauer-King, who plays Prince Eric. The character gets a lot more to do this time around, and is far less two-dimensional. He even gets to sing one of the new songs, which was a highlight for me. But what about you, Rye? Tell me about your expectations going into this film.
Well, I was not looking forward to this film at all. And I laughed when you had it on your summer movie preview list, Matt. But like you, I was won over by this Rob Marshall remake. The film actually felt bigger in almost every way than the original. Seeing this movie in the Dolby Atmos theater was a total treat. The bass, honestly, was rumbling in a few spots. How about especially as the action ramps up near the end? I love the sound design in it. As you mentioned, Halle Bailey and Melissa McCarthy were both great, but none of their performances would have even mattered if the production design didn't work. What had me worried the most going in was just how they were going to pull off the look of the film in general. That goes for the characters, Ursula especially, and the underwater world building. Now, this is no Avatar, but they were committed to the underwater look, and it worked well enough for me. As for Ursula, though, this could have went horribly wrong. However, they were wise and decided to show her in interesting ways, never showing her full squid-like body until the end. It reminded me of when directors would be creative with practical effects to get the most out of them. Jumping to mind is back in Empire Strikes Back when Luke fights the snow monster, who I know has a name, the Abominable.
The Wampa. Dude,
the Wampa.
Come on. I'm coming to your house to steal your Star Wars toys.
So
your card has been revoked.
He's fighting the Wampa, and you don't get a really good look at him. And now I know they've changed that, and some might not realize that in the special editions. It looks a lot better. I'm talking about the original Empire Strikes Back when they didn't really show him all that well.
Yeah.
Granted, this is digital effects, but it was more or less the same thing where they weren't showing Ursula's body, straight on. It would have looked goofy the whole time. So they're putting her in creative ways where Melissa McCarthy's head's upside down, dangling on the screen, and you're seeing like her tentacles wrapping around different things in the shot. All of that I thought worked great. So I wanted to ask you what you thought of the production design and just how the characters looked in general.
Yeah, so first of all, I think we did see Ursula's full body, like she swims away in one of the scenes. But I won't split hairs with you. They did definitely take some creative camera angles to match the live action with the CG, so it didn't look funky. The overall look of the film was trippy during the underwater segments of the movie, especially the number we're all going to be waiting for, Under the Sea, which was just a kaleidoscope of sea creatures dancing and frolicking around. They toned down the cartoonness of it. Like, they don't grab instruments and start playing because that wouldn't make sense in this somewhat more grounded reality.
Right.
but nevertheless, the colors and the visions on screen, you know, grab yourself an edible and head to see that. That part of the movie was pretty trippy. But yeah, I thought the look of the movie was good. And underwater can be a real disaster. Like, you know, I think about some of the Marvel and DC films where they go underwater, and it's just it never quite works. But
right, it's dark and grainy. I mean, not everybody's going to be like James Cameron and take 13 years to, you know, make a movie where it's actually shot underwater. So I give him credit where like the hair is floating, you know, and this is obviously some sort of effect. It doesn't, I don't want to say it actually looked like they were underwater. It looked like there was an effect to give us the idea. It's almost like when you go see live theater and you realize, okay, they're doing something just to give your mind the impression that we know that this is where the location is. That's what it made me think. Like they weren't going for, hey, this is authentically underwater, but we're going to make enough things float around and give you the idea that you guys understand they're underwater. It worked, I thought.
It worked for me, man. Yeah, definitely.
But as far as Ariel, her look, so I had to go and look at the original because I wasn't positive that she was wearing like a bikini top. I thought like from the hear
this
me
is
out
what
here.
you think about? Okay, all right.
Yeah. So when in the live action, it almost is goofy because, well, is Ariel wearing, you know, like a bra or a bikini? Or I thought like from the chest down should have started to be the scales of the fish.
You've really put some thought into this, Ryan.
Well, yeah, that's what we do. We got to
so-
break these things down.
So
But
famously,
it still worked for me. But go ahead.
Okay. So, okay, I'm gonna explain a little mythology to you here, Ryan, because apparently you skipped that class. A mermaid is a woman from the waist up and a fish from the waist down.
Okay,
So
waist.
the
I didn't know
breasts
where. Yeah.
would be human in this case. Now, in the animated classic, Ariel wore a seashell bikini. They were two, I think they were scallops, to be precise, that covered her boobs. In this, I think it's left a little ambiguous because we see a lot of mer people with different costumes on, and it almost looks like scales, like it's part of their actual body and not a costume that they could just take on and put off. It's not clothing, in other words. It might be skin or natural. I think that was cool.
Right. So this is the point I was getting to. I wasn't positive. It definitely was distracting to me. Are they actually wearing something over their chest, or is it part of their body?
Mermaid boobs. Always
you know,
distracting to ride the movie guy.
But I wasn't positive. But I just wanted to break that down. It worked, though. I'm not saying it distracted me the whole time. It was just, if you're going to make a movie, a live action take on The Little Mermaid, these are things they had to discuss. I'm sure there were meetings about this of exactly how they were going to do it. You know,
You are absolutely correct. At one point, this was sat down and discussed. Like, are we going with seashells here? Or are we going to do something different with the tops? They went with a different approach, and I think it worked because it skirts that line between a costume and natural. As far as like, as a viewer, we're not sure what's going on there. Although King Triton is clearly wearing armor, like that's like shells and stuff that he can take off.
right?
All right. Yeah, the look of it was fantastic. Let's talk about the music.
Okay.
Alan Menken and Lin-Manuel Miranda collaborated again here, nicely mixing classic tunes with new ones. What struck me was that it never feels so music video-ish, even during the Under the Sea aforementioned moment, when the temptations must be strong to meet that high moment of the original. They never break from that feeling of fantastical realism that grounds the whole movie. And each song serves to move the story forward. In some musicals, I'm waiting for each song to be over to get back to the acting, to the story, while here it's seamless. But here comes my first gripe. The song Les Poissons is absent. What a missed opportunity for a cool cameo from like a Jack Black or somebody like that. What do we get instead? An awkwardly squawked rap from Aquafina called Scuttlebutt. Didn't quite fit for me. What did you think of the music, Rye? And what about that Aquafina song? And should Aquafina be slowing down on these voice roles?
Wow, you're throwing me a lot of questions. Let me start with this one. This is going to stun you, Matt. I was a fan of Scuttlebutt. I thought the song was pretty good. I think the filmmakers here are acknowledging that music tastes have changed since the original Little Mermaid, and to change it up. I mean, let's not go with everything that was traditional. Let's give some sort of update to the music. And that one worked for me. I think it's a great number for kids, especially young kids around like 6 to 10 years old are going to love that rap and that little moment with Awkwafina singing that.
All right.
You might not have liked
terrible.
it, but I think kids are going to love it. Awkwafina's great in it. So to answer your second question, she is doing too many voice roles, or it seems to be that way. It's such a distinct voice, but at the same time, I like it. So I'm torn here. Like, none of them do I ever feel like, I wish she wasn't in the movie. But it's almost getting to be like, oh, of course, where's the Awkwafina character? We're 20 minutes into an animated film here. Where the hell is that Awkwafina character coming in?
Huge now, right? I mean, Disney, Marvel, indie films. She was in the Renfield movie. She's everywhere.
She really is. But I do got to say, as far as like you mentioned this song missing. So true confession here. I don't know The Little Mermaid nearly as well as I know most of the classic Disney movies. I probably have seen it 2 times. And the last time I saw it was somewhere between 15 and 20 years ago. So I'm not that familiar with The Little Mermaid where I would have known that there was a song missing. You seem to be an expert, but then again, you have kids and you had a sister, so you probably saw this a lot more than I did.
I did. I saw it. I mean, but it was a sensation in '89 when it came out. And it was, everywhere, man. And I did see it in the years to follow. And I've seen it on the stage. I saw a pro-am at the Kalamazoo Civic Theater. And it was a very nice production. So, yes, I'm pretty familiar. And that was a moment in the play when an actor comes out and that's his only scene and he just gets to, go for it 150%. Les Poissons is the scene where the chef is chasing around Sebastian with a meat cleaver. And it's just a stylized, really frenetic scene. It's funny. It's great. And I was kind of looking forward to it. And they let me down, Ryan.
Well, I would say in general, though, I thought the music was spot on. I had no qualms with it at all. And in fact, like you said, it never felt like it broke, the momentum that they had going with the live action narrative. All of a sudden go into like a music video, like you're saying. So it worked for me all the way through. It wasn't too music-y. It was perfect. Spot on.
All right. Another small issue for me. Javier Bardem as Triton. It was cheesy. He didn't seem to make the same commitment that the rest of the cast did, and he almost seemed uncomfortable in the role. There were some giggles about him at our screening, and not at the right moments. It wasn't a so good it's bad kind of thing. It was like, this is cheesy kind of thing. But it's a small miss from a bunch of hits. I say go ahead and watch this, but curious about your take on Triton. Do you agree with me there?
Well, all right. The very first time Bardem comes on screen was kind of funny, and there were some chuckles. But I mean, it's Anton from No Country for Old Men floating underwater holding a trident. You're going to laugh. It's just bizarre looking, I got used to it, though, however. And I actually give Bardem credit for the ending scene with Ariel in this movie. I think he packed some emotion into that scene, and it gave it nice closure to the film. And I don't know if I saw it or if I was imagining it, but I thought I saw a tear in Matt Kay's eye when that scene ended.
You were imagining it, Ryan.
I don't think so.
I'm cut from stone. I never cry. No, it was touching. But that's particularly the scene that I'm talking about. Like, when he first pops his head out of the water, got a few chuckles in our screening.
Well, he looked uncomfortable. I mean, he's been underwater for 3,000 years. And he finally pops his head out. I mean, it's a moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. My bottom line is this is movie, aside from my gripes, that is worth seeing. Let's talk about our jaw-dropping moments. I have a feeling they're both going to be the same. I'll go first. Is that okay, Ryan?
Sure.
The Ursula battle. When she gets Triton's trident and grows to a massive proportion and causes the whirlpool. That whole sequence is great in the animated movie, and it's great here.
Mm-hmm. So this is what my first point about like this live action movie. If they're going to give us these remakes, make them bigger, make them larger than what they had the possibility of doing with the animated version. And they did it tenfold here at the end. I think this is where it really is what I'm talking about. It's just bigger and better and more exciting of a ending sequence than in the animated version. That I swear that the rumbling of the bass was almost going to just knock me off the seat. It was that loud inside that Atmos theater. It was insane. So I do love that battle sequence. There's a couple other highlights here we should mention. I thought the Under the Sea, as we mentioned, is a highlight. That could be a jaw-dropping moment for sure. Again, that's one of those moments where in the press screening, I think people who are going to see this in the theater, you're going to get applause kind of moment when that scene ends in the theater. But we didn't get it. But I feel if you're seeing it with a regular crowd, you're going to get an applause there. I also like Ariel exploring the sunken ships.
Yeah, that was a cool sequence.
Which, again, if you're doing this stuff in like animation, it's great, but there's something about like the live action look of these, down ships, and she goes in there, a shark comes after her.
Right.
But the way that all looked, again, that's part of that production design, really started luring me in. That's early on in the film, and that's actually, I think, the moment where I'm like, oh, man, this isn't going to be a dud. It was right around then where I'm like, this is pretty damn cool, the way this is all shaping up. So that would be another highlight for me.
All right, you got a movie poster quote, Rye?
I went with The Little Mermaid makes a big splash.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. Nice and simple, succinct, to the point. I like it. I said, another lap with Ariel, Eric, and Ursula. Nothing fishy about this remake.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even fit that on a movie poster. I mean, you're going full paragraph these days.
Yeah, I demand the entire lower third, personally. How many Jaws you giving this?
Wow, I am shocked to say this, JawHeads. 3 Jaws for The Little Mermaid. Wow. I think this is one of the better live-action remakes, to be honest.
I would say it might be the best Disney live-action remake. The only other contender would be Beauty and the Beast for me, and I'm also giving it 3 Jaws.
Wow. Who would have seen this coming, Matt K? I guess you did a little bit when you had it at number 5 on your movie preview list, but oh, man.
I was ready to be wrong. I was excited, but I did not think it was going to actually be good, and lo and behold, it's way better than either of us suspected.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The Little Mermaid, 3 Jaws for Matt K, 3 Jaws from Rye the Movie Guy. It comes out June 1st in the theaters, so this was a little bit early of a review, but it's going to be a big hit for Memorial Day weekend.
I think so. I do too, yeah.
This got us thinking fish movies, and we've done, when you're doing a podcast for as many years as we've been doing, we've covered underwater scenes, we've got all kinds of water films, different lists through the time on Jaw here, but we never did specifically fish movies, and that doesn't necessarily mean we're talking straight up fish, right? We got creative with this, and the plot can involve a fish, so on and so forth. It can be about fishermen. Let's see where we go with this. We made one rule that was no sharks, because we would all go a lot of shark movies. That's its own topic, right, Matt?
Oh, totally. This is Shark Week, This isn't
right.
Shark Week. We're not doing sharks.
Right. No sharks on our list.
Plus, then everyone would have Jaws at number 1.
Exactly. So you're getting to start it this week. Your number 5 favorite fish movie.
My number 5. So Sharknado is out. I just realized that is really sad. My number 5
is that
fish
sad?
Movie.
That's sad.
It is. It is. Sharknado is a modern masterpiece.
That's a sad NATO.
I'm going to be brief on my number 5 because I feel like I've talked about it a bunch. But it is a movie that is near and dear to my heart. Universal, The Creature from the Black Lagoon. What I think makes it special is how way ahead they were, how decades ahead in the area of special effects makeup. If you look at The Creature from the Black Lagoon, at least the costume, yes, it's in black and white, but it's like you could be watching The Shape of Water. It looks so good. And this was in the black and white era, so I think it was in the late 50s that Creature came out. Can we throw that in the fish tank? Speaking of fish, I'm pretty sure, I want to say it was 1956. Pre-60s, I think. Anyway, wonderful movie, holds up to this day. It's a Universal Monsters classic. If you haven't seen Creature from the Black Lagoon, watch it for the effects alone. It still holds up, and it's still kind of scary. I love it.
Nice pick at number 5. I go with a movie that is, if anything, this is my artsy pick here, Matt. This one came out in 2012. It's a documentary, but it is a strange documentary. It's called Leviathan. And it was filmed with GoPro cameras all over a large fishing vessel. And
Wow.
they're in weird spots, and they're catching strange angles. There's no narrative here at all. You're talking about doing a gummy for The Little Mermaid. This is definitely a film you want to be under the influence for. It is really just a sensory experience more than it is a narrative documentary. You're on this large fishing ship, seeing how these fish are caught. The birds are landing on the boat, all natural sounds. And it all blends together and is edited in a way where it's just, you sort of sit there and like take it all in and then make up your own mind if you like the way we go about fishing the seas these days. But Leviathan, very strange. Like I say, don't go in looking for a major narrative, just an experience, Matt.
All right. Now, that's interesting. There's another movie called Leviathan, which I believe is kind of a science fiction horror movie.
Yeah, I have not seen that one. I think that's a Russian film, though, is it not?
Oh, dude, I'm not sure. I didn't think so, but I could be wrong. Do we want to throw that in the fish tank
Throw
too?
it in the fish tank. There's definitely 2 Leviathans for sure.
Okay. Swinging it around to my number 4, and all I have to say, and Phil will have to answer me because Ryan won't know what I'm talking about.
I won't know what you're talking about.
I guarantee it, Ryan. Are you ready, kids? Phil.
SpongeBob,
Aye, Captain.
isn't it?
Yes, it's SpongeBob.
See, and you didn't know. I knew I was talking SpongeBob.
How did you
See?
know that, Ryan? How did you?
I've been hanging out with Phil for how many years?
Yeah, the man's got a point.
He rubs off on you.
does.
I learned some things on this show.
Yeah. All right. Okay. SpongeBob SquarePants the movie. I recently rewatched it, and holy crap, man! It still holds up. The Hasselhoff, everything, the Goofy Goobers. They have to get. I think it's Triton again, or is it Poseidon? Is it Poseidon, Phil?
Yes.
Okay, whatever. The sea god's crown gets stolen. Mr. Krabs gets blamed. SpongeBob and Patrick have to go and retrieve it from Fish City.
Shell
and
City.
wackiness ensues. Shell City, thank you.
They
And
drive
it
a
features,
hamburger.
It features the great song by Ween, Ocean Man. Almost worth the price of admission for that alone, but the entire movie is fantastic. Go ahead and watch it, just by yourself.
I've never seen an episode of SpongeBob or the movie SpongeBob, but I'm familiar enough with it because you 2 knuckleheads.
The movie is actually lit. Matt is 100% correct. The first movie is genuinely a masterpiece.
It is. It really is.
Is it streaming somewhere? Throw that in the fish tank. Maybe I'll watch it after we get done with the recording.
It's
Possibly,
worthwhile.
Matt. Possibly. Well, I go with an animated film at my number 4, and I know what the JawHeads are thinking right away. Oh, it's Nemo. He's so cute. I didn't go Nemo. I wanted to get creative here. And the master, Hayao Miyazaki, made in 2008, Ponyo. Ponyo. Have you seen Ponyo, Matt?
I've seen Ponyo. Yeah. Ponyo's a great pick, Ryan.
The
Great
version
pick.
the version I had of Ponyo is the only one that I saw was they redubbed it with all American actors, and it was actually like a co-release with like Disney, and it had the full American cast. Ended up checking it out that way, and the film tells the story of Ponyo, this goldfish who escapes from the ocean and is rescued by a 5-year-old human boy, and after she's washed ashore while trapped in a glass jar, they bond together, and Ponyo desires to become a human girl against the devastating circumstances brought about by her acquisition and use of magic. Miyazaki's made so many great films. The animation style in Ponyo is absolutely fantastic. Do check it out. This is probably one that maybe the JawHeads haven't seen. I thought everybody's seen Nemo, and I was going to put Nemo on the list, and I thought, spread some love because maybe somebody out there hasn't seen Ponyo, and it's definitely worth a spin.
No arguments here. Speaking of movies that no one has seen, there's a film that came out in 1996, stars some guy, I think his name is Tom Cruise, something like that. Jerry Maguire.
I know the scene you're talking about, but I don't know if this is a fish movie.
Oh, it's a fish movie, Ryan.
Because of you're talking about the one scene when he's leaving the office, right?
I would reference our very own podcast every week. The fish tank opens and we hear scenes from various movies, including the fish scene from Jerry Maguire. The goldfish is a symbol that recurs throughout the movie. It represents his relationship with Renee Zellweger's character and the health thereof. And at the end, their unity, they bond over this goldfish. It's central to the entire plot. It's a symbol. It's a small touch. Nevertheless, Jerry Maguire is a fish movie.
I'll give it to you on this one. And I will say this. I love that scene. I mean, that's when Tom Cruise, one of his best. Like, if we were ranking the Tom Cruise scenes, which maybe we'll have to do when he's got his Mission Impossible coming out, when you're breaking those down, that's one of my favorite Tom Cruise moments, when he is leaving the office and he says, "Who's coming with me? Who's coming with me? This goldfish is coming
Besides
with me."
Flipper here, yeah.
It is a great Tom Cruise moment. All right. My number 3, back to the documentaries we go. I think you've seen this one. It came out in 2003. The film is entitled Blackfish, and it's a documentary that concerns the captivity of an orca whale that was actually involved in the deaths of 3 people at like a SeaWorld, and the consequences of keeping orcas in captivity. And in this movie, it's amazing. They have footage back from like 1980s, like early 80s, of them catching this orca whale off the coast of like Iceland or somewhere around there. And you get to see how actually gruesome it is to take these whales out of their natural habitat and then bring them into captivity. It is almost, I shouldn't say almost, it is appalling. And once you get done watching Blackfish, you will have a very hard time ever going to a SeaWorld or the like to pay to be entertained by orca whales jumping out of the water for your amusement, because you'll realize just how terrible of a life this is for them.
There is a before and an after Blackfish. You know, I think that the entire industry was radically changed by the existence of that movie for the better. Mm-hmm. And people re-examined our relationship with these animals. I was even like a little, let's say, hesitant when I went to the Shed Aquarium and watched their ocean show in the back, because they have some animals. Turns out it's okay. All those animals are rescued. But yeah, man, that movie affected me for sure.
No doubt. It's definitely one that you see, and it's like, well, you can never go and support, you know, these parks ever again. And I know the whole industry took a massive downturn, which, you know, for the good, because of this film, and just word got out there about just how gruesome the whole experience is for the whales. So
cruel is the word. Cruel. Yeah,
absolutely. Blackfish is the name of the movie. Do check it out, JawHeads. That was my number 3 pick.
All right, I got a little bit of an upper after that downer. My pick is a comedy starring the Oscar winner Jamie Lee Curtis. At number 2, I'm going with A Fish Called Wanda.
Oh, nice. I left this one off my list on purpose because I figured you would have this on there.
This is probably Kevin Kline's best role, right? What else can you say that's a really great Kevin Kline movie?
Yeah, I mean, he's got a strong career, but I would probably say if this isn't his best, it's right up there. It's top tier Kevin Kline.
Yeah. Got a couple of the Monty Python alum, John Cleese, as a barrister. And basically, they're grifters and jewel thieves. And Wanda, who is the center of attention, these 3 men are sort of vying for her affection. The Kevin Kline character, who's kind of a rogue, and his partner, who's like kind of this stuttering gimp, and then John Cleese, who's the barrister. They all get mixed up. You can't tell who's screwing who, figuratively and literally to some extent. And it's just funny. It's hilarious. There's some of the best comedic beats in that movie that still hold up. I watched it, I think, like 3 or 4 years ago. I don't remember why. It was a CinemaJaw thing. I rewatched A Fish Called Wanda. It still works.
Nice. It's been a few years since I've seen it, but yeah, truly a great film there. My number 2, another documentary. I'm glad that you have some comedies and you're lightening up the mood here, because I got another downer of a documentary at number 2. This one, 2009. This time we're talking about dolphins in the Cove. And the Cove was a documentary that analyzed and questions dolphin hunting and the practices of such in Japan. It actually won the Oscar for Best Documentary in 2010. The film called to action just to stop dolphin kills and captures and change Japanese fishing practices. In the film, it's wild because the filmmakers actually hid HD cameras that were like disguised as rocks inside this cove. So part of the documentary is actually almost like a spy movie, because the government would never let filmmakers even get close to the water and this cove, where which basically they do is these fishermen would bring all these fish in. They have a way of luring them all in the water towards this cove. And once they get to the cove, they just basically slaughter all these fish. And it's just gruesome. There's blood in the water like you wouldn't believe. And so they never want this ever seen. And so they go out of their way. You can't even get anywhere near the water and the cove. But these filmmakers were able to eventually, like I say, it comes off like a spy movie, get these HD cameras in place, and then we really get the story unfolds from there. It's a great one.
Tuna? Was it tuna that they were fishing? Or
Yeah.
Gross.
Really good stuff.
Yeah.
It's gross, but really good stuff as far as information that we get out of this. And another one that's just, sort of eye-popping of what's going on out there and the cruelty. So The Cove, my number 2 pick. Again, another downer. Sorry, JawHeads. Matt, I hope you're picking us up here with your number 1.
Kind of. I mean, it's definitely up from that, but, what isn't? Also a 2009 movie. This one is British. It is a drama, and it was directed by Andrea Arnold, starring Michael Fassbender.
I know what it is.
Yeah, Fish Tank. It is about a 15-year-old girl who is a bit of a ne'er-do-well with dreams of becoming a dancer. She spends her spare time alone, a bit antisocial. She just puts on a boombox in an abandoned space and dances and comes up with these choreographies. She's very creative and talented in that way. Her mom is also a ne'er-do-well, but in a different way. She's like a partier, a drinker, and she strikes up a relationship with Michael Fassbender, who at first is a bit of a positive role model, a bit of a father figure for Mia. But then the boundaries of that relationship start to become blurred. Mm-hmm. And like almost a romance, not almost a romance develops, an inappropriate relationship. And suddenly daughter and mom are kind of at odds over this guy. And where it goes, it's very well acted. And Fassbender's amazing in this movie.
I don't know how you tied this into a fish movie.
Well, it's called Fish Tank.
Well, I know that, but I mean, we're actually talking literal fish. I don't think there's any in the movie.
Well, you gave me a fish called Wanda.
True. We're stretching the boundaries here. But hey. I loved Fish Tank. We reviewed it here on CinemaJaw for either Michael Fassbender or for some reason we picked that as like a retro review, and we both caught up with the movie. We had never seen it, and I know we were both huge fans.
Yeah, both huge fans. I don't remember why. It must have been Fassbender, right? That must have been why we watched it. But
that's my guess. Yeah,
I'm so glad. That's why I put this at number 1. And yes, maybe it's a bit of a stretch to call it a fish movie, but I think a lot of people probably didn't see this because it's a small film. It's from over the pond, and I want to highlight this movie. Like it's a really worthy spin. So check it out.
My number 1 pick comes from the great mind of Tim Burton.
Oh yeah.
He directed a film in 2003 entitled Big Fish. And
you give me crap about Fish Tank and then you pick Big Fish at number 1.
However, it does have a great fish scene in the movie. And this one of his stories is about how he caught this giant catfish, and it's like a giant catfish that he caught the day that his son was born. Now, the dad, basically, the story here is that a father is ailing, and his son, the father is played by Albert Finney, the son is played by Billy Crudup. the son goes to visit his father, and the father starts telling him all these stories. And the stories are just larger than life. Hence the title, Big Fish. So Billy Crudup comes to see his father, and he starts telling him all these big tales, hence the name Big Fish. And one of the stories, and this is why it is a fish movie also, is that he actually caught this giant catfish with his wedding ring the day that his son was born. And he hates this story because he just thinks of it as just like fake, and why does he tell these stupid stories? And he goes on, he tells all these far-fetched stories. We come to find out that, like a good storyteller, there's some truth to even the craziest things, right? And at the end of the film, we sort of see that. Like, there are these characters that were involved in this guy's life. They're not necessarily as sensationalized as he would say in a story, but when you're a good storyteller, you gotta make it bigger than life. Under the radar Tim Burton movie, anyways. I don't think everybody has seen this one. Big Fish. Kind of a tearjerker, too.
Yeah, it is. It's a
Ewan
great movie.
McGregor's
Very
in this
touching.
movie also. Ewan McGregor plays the younger
Oh.
version of Albert Finney. So I should mention that if there's Ewan McGregor fans out there. Check it out. Big Fish. I'm a big fan.
I
No puns.
believe Albert Finney's final appearance on the big screen before
No.
his passing.
No.
No?
Throw it in the fish tank, but I think, Matt, you're way off.
Could be. He's great. I loved him as Daddy Warbucks.
Honorable mentions here, Matt. I had Nemo listed as an honorable. I did mention that when I talked about Ponyo. Seaspiracy is a Netflix documentary about the fishing industry and so forth. Worth checking out, even though I read some stuff about it afterwards that sort of contradicts the narrative that they tell in the documentary. The Perfect Storm. Mark Wahlberg, George Clooney, John C. Reilly. They go fishing right during the perfect storm. Son of a bitch. That's something. You just can't get over that. And then you got Blow the Man Down. This was
good
Amazon
call.
movie, and it takes place in the fishing community, and it's sort of like a little thriller.
Yeah, that came out right as the pandemic was getting
Right.
started.
That was one of the first ones we reviewed via Zoom when we went pandemic.
Yeah, yep. I got a couple honorables, too. The Shape of Water. Mm-hmm. You mentioned two of mine. Did we mention Splash?
No.
We should.
We should. Tommy Hanks.
Tommy Hanks. And I know no sharks, but I'm just going to throw Sharknado a little bit. Just fish in it, too. That's it. That's all I got.
What was the mermaid's name in Splash? Madison.
Madison, nice. Right, because she looks at the street sign.
Right.
Is that in Chicago?
No.
New York, huh?
Yeah. But there's a Madison out there. She looks at the street sign. Daryl Hannah.
Yeah. Daryl Hannah. It's a great movie.
Absolutely. JawHeads, if we missed your favorite fish movie and you have Twitter pulled up, you can always send us a tweet or you can write us an email. We're feedback@cinemajaw.com. I'd like to hear from you on fish movies. When we come back after this break, you're not going to believe it. I saw Fast X and I got some quick takes on it. Plus, Matt is going to play Fast and Furious movie trivia. Stick with us.
And we're back on CinemaJaw. We're talking about fish, Ryan. I think that means it's a mighty good time to throw a line to Phil and open up that fish tank. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Thank you both. It is so great to be out of the eponymous fish tank this week. And I gotta say, okay, Jawheads, we are in revolt. We are revolting. Matt lay poissoned me over here and is really filleting me in the sense that
Oh my
these two
God.
jabronis,
Wow.
these two jabronis, who knows more about fish on this show than me? And did either of them consult me once? This is how you end up with big fish. Ryan talked about aquatic mammals twice. Whales are not fish, you goober.
Anything that swims a fish on this show.
I didn't even catch that. Well done, Phil.
I
Driving
thought
me
that.
nuts. No sharks, but you have dolphins and orcas.
I almost had my octopus teacher on this list, and I thought somebody's going to call me out on
aren't
this.
fish either.
I would have given it to you.
This is like 8th grade biology, and if I passed, you two can too. That's enough razzing these two for aquatic animal trivia, because we found out a lot of cool stuff about aquatic animals. Here's what I will say. This is truly the most fish tank of all fish tanks. Like, nothing but undersea everything right now.
Long John Silver's over here.
Truly, but like short Phil
Long John
Silver.
Phil's.
Yeah. I'm a precious metal. Thank you. When did Creature from the Black Lagoon come out? That was February 12th, 1954. So Matt was right. It is sub-60s. Wow. Isn't that what you were saying?
I was damn
did
close.
you say sub-70s?
I said 56.
So 69 years old, almost 70 years old. That's
and
insane.
It still looks pretty damn good.
Awesome.
This is a great. What's the deal with the Leviathan film that isn't the documentary?
Mm-hmm.
So something I think happened here, because there's actually two films that are not the documentary called Leviathan, and I think each of you picked one of them to talk about, and we're just like, yeah, I think that might be right, but it wasn't right at all, because Matt was saying something about it being a sci-fi film, Ryan was saying something about it being a Russian film, and those are two totally different movies, both called the same thing. It's like Record and Record. The first ever film called Leviathan came out in 1989, and that was the sci-fi one that was basically just Alien but underwater. Then there was the documentary in 2012 from the top 5. And in 2014, we got a Russian crime drama inspired by the events of that psychopath in Colorado who turned that construction machine into a tank and drove through the town. They took that story and made it in Russia. And I think
he didn't hurt anybody, right? He just demolished a bunch of buildings.
I mean, I guess that depends on how you define hurting people.
I mean, physically. Financially, yes, but physically, no.
I guess I don't know. In my head, I don't know if you build a tank and don't hurt somebody.
No, I'm pretty sure he didn't, but I could be wrong, so we'll find out.
Then our last one was Albert Finney's an emphasis on Finn here. Okay, we're keeping the undersea theme. It was Albert Finney's last film, Big Fish. No, there were 2 Jason Bourne films in between Big Fish and Al's passing, and his actual last film was Skyfall. I don't even remember him being in Skyfall, to be frank.
Wow.
I don't either. I'm trying to remember. Yeah. Javier Bardem was also in Skyfall, was he not?
I was actually waiting for Phil to say, no, it wasn't his last film. He's still with us.
Oh, no. I knew he was...
You know, he may not be with us in the ether, but he's with us in here, in our hearts, where it all counts.
One other I did throw in the fish tank, I don't know if it's in there, is SpongeBob streaming. Did we look this
Oh my
one up?
God, you're right. I was looking up the... Hold, please. It is. It's only on Paramount Plus, however, which does make sense when you consider that it's a Nickelodeon film. But if you have Paramount Plus... I will die on the hill. That was in my top 5 films of all time, and it still very well may be. I haven't really sat down and reassessed that top 5 list, but it's a blast and a half.
Boy, we should get that top 5 from you one day, Phil.
I think
Demon Slayer number 1?
No, Spirited Away is.
Okay. All right.
That's a worthy number 1. Yeah, that's a worthy number 1.
Lots of respect.
Right. Was that everything, Phil?
Followed. That's all we've got.
Jump back in that fish tank.
You bet.
Matt, I see a lot of movies. Most years, I see over 150 films a year. But do you know I have never seen a Fast and Furious movie? Not a one. For starters, I'm not much of a car guy, and I really don't like Vin Diesel. That said, as the series grew in popularity and the cast started to include bigger names and eventually even Oscar winners, I became intrigued. What the hell's going on? So for some crazy reason, I decided to jump in with Fast X without having ever seen a previous film. I did so 3 days ago, and my head is still spinning. Boy, did I get lucky. Or did I? I mean, I got lucky that the Fast X movie that I saw opens with a flashback to a famous scene from a previous installment. It had Paul Walker in it and Vin Diesel, and they're stealing a bank vault with their cars, of course. And while they drag this giant vault, they start to actually use it as a weapon against other cars. They end up killing Dante's father. Now, Dante is played by Jason Momoa. They kill his dad. So the plot of Fast X is Dante is back and wanting revenge on Dom and his family. What unfolds over the next 2 hours is one of the craziest, most unrealistic, and stupid things I have ever seen on film. I have to admit, these movies are not for me at all. I always talk about how movies need to stay within their own line of believability. Fast and the Furious does not even try. I know there are people out there that don't take movies as serious as I do, and I'm okay with that. But if you ever meet a person that says, I never cry at a movie, they're a Fast and Furious fan. The only highlight here is Jason Momoa, who plays a very feminine and eccentric villain who is having a ton of fun playing a character as over the top as he possibly can. I smirked a couple of times at his silliness. That's the highlight for me. As for the action, it's so absurd I can't even describe it or enjoy it while I was watching it. I will not be returning to the series. If you like these movies, no judgment here. Go for it. Waste your time. But I'm not going for a ride with these numbskulls ever again.
I don't know what to say, man. I have also never seen any of the Fast and the Furious movies. Was beginning to feel like maybe I was missing out because of the whole like family thing. Like it does seem like it's catching on this time, like a real genuine meme has been born. But hearing your review, I might just stick with my original plan and continue to skip them.
It was like an experiment to not see any of the Fast and Furious movies and then just jump in on Fast X. I felt like it was like, now they're going to put me into some sort of chamber and read my brain and see what exactly transpired. When I came out of the movie, I mean, I barely could walk. I almost needed assistance. I was so dizzy and just stupefied that I walked out of the theater, and we've talked about this before. There's publicists out there always asking for your like hot take if you like the movie. And I said, I never saw this publicist before. And I said to her, I don't know if I was entertained, but I can tell you I feel dumber. That was my line to her.
That's what you honestly said to her?
That's what I said to her. I mean, I don't get it. I really don't.
I'm sad. I kind of wanted to get in on all the fun.
I'm just not for these kind of movies. It's just not for me. And you know what I'm talking about, where they're not even playing with the laws of practicality in any sense. I mean, we literally have like a nuclear bomb that's in a ball form, of course, that they drop out of a truck and it starts rolling on the streets of Rome. And then they're using their cars to sort of like bang into the bomb and like position it into certain ways to try to get it into the water. It's just, I mean, I can't even tell you how absolutely stupid the thing is. And people like this stuff. And,
there's a bunch of Transformers movies too, man. I mean, Michael Bay's got a real career going for himself. Yeah, these things sell. Sell. I mean, there's 10 of them.
I know. And the cast is absolutely humongous. As we get to trivia, you're going to be stunned at some of the names I'm going to bring out that have been in these Fast and Furious movies. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And spoiler alert here, Jawheads, it ends on a cliffhanger. There's going to be another one. It doesn't even end with a proper ending. It ends with like, and I'm like, what the hell? And then, of course, there's a post-credit scene, and the crowd was like literally clapping and stunned and shocked. And I'm like, this is, it's like Bizarro World. It really is. But
hey, different strokes for different folks, man. Me and you drive automatic transmissions.
My movie poster quote is, don't think, just drive. Just going for a practical movie poster quote. I'll go a half a jaw for Jason Momoa.
Wow.
That's it for me. Maybe I'm too hard on these movies. I can't get down with them though, Matt K.
Maybe if you had started at the first one, you might have some attachment to the
Yeah,
characters.
that's what I thought. You know, if I probably did watch all 9, I probably would be calling this a 4-jaw masterpiece.
Yeah, that's what
But
it
I would be a
takes.
different critic.
Yeah, well, after those movies, you sure would.
Yeah. Fast and Furious, out in theaters everywhere. If you're a fan of these and you want to try to steer me wrong, shoot us an email. Feedback@cinemajaw.com. Love to hear a different take from the JawHeads than what I just witnessed.
Yeah, please do, JawHeads. Let's hear it. Unleash the terror on Rye.
Well, we're not done with Fast and Furious. In honor of said movie, we are playing casts that have appeared in the movie. And the way it's going to work like this, Matt, is I'm going to give you 3 movies that this actor has also appeared in. And they've also appeared in one of the Fast and Furious movies. You just tell me what actor it is. Sound good?
Yes. So 3 movies other than one of the Fast and Furious movies.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
I understand. Okay.
All right. You need 3 or more not to be stumped. We start with number 1. I tried to make it easy. Here we go. This actor who appears in Fast and Furious movies also appears in Spy with Melissa McCarthy, Wrath of Man, and Crank.
Jason Statham.
That is correct. He's, I believe, a regular in the Fast and Furious movies. I don't know how many, but...
I think he's even in the spin-offs, yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. Question 2 over to you, Matt. This Fast and Furious actor also appears in Machete Kills, Widows, and Avatar.
Wow.
Machete Kills, a Matt Kay movie.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it.
Widows, we reviewed it here on the show.
Yeah.
And Avatar. You've seen all of these movies.
That's what's throwing me off.
And that's the first Avatar, not Avatar Way of Water.
Yeah. Okay. Is it Poe Dameron himself, Oscar Isaac?
Massively incorrect right there. Massively. We're looking for Michelle Rodriguez.
Damn.
She's
Well
on
done,
a motorcycle in Fast X. And man, can she drive on 2 wheels.
If you had said Dungeons and Dragons.
I was going to put that in there, believe it or not. I was. All right, Matt's 1 for 2. Question 3, Matt. This actor who appears in the Fast and Furious, shockingly, also appears in The Queen, Red, and Trumbo.
Wow.
This actor appears in The Queen, Red, and Trumbo.
I'm trying to remember Red. Trumbo was the one with
Cranston.
Heisenberg. Yeah, Cranston.
Red is with Bruce Willis. It's a large cast movie. It's sort of a comic book movie.
Okay, I'm going to guess Helen Mirren.
That is correct, yes. Dame Helen Mirren is in the Fast and Furious franchise movies, and not just one. I believe she's in 2 or 3 of them. You are 2 for 3. Question 4. This actor also appears in Bombshell, Devil's Advocate, and Prometheus.
Okay, that is Charlize Theron.
That is correct. You are not stumped this week. Charlize Theron. Helen Mirren, Oscar winner. Charlize Theron, Oscar winner. Both appearing in this movie. Unbelievable. Matt is not stumped this week. That's what we learned here. He knows his Fast and Furious cast.
Yeah, somehow, some way. I mean, geez, like you said, though, everyone in Hollywood has been in one of those movies at some point.
Not to mention, another Oscar winner is in this one, this latest one. Brie Larson was in Fast X. Like, what is going on? I mean, I'm
have
floored.
huge budgets. They can
I
pay
know.
people. I don't get it. You don't get it. But people out there, they get it.
They do. They do. That's why we do the show, when we understand that people have various opinions, Matt.
Yeah, and most of them are wrong, Ryan.
It does bring us to the end of a very fun and entertaining Jaw. And we got to thank, first and foremost, our editor, Fill Me In. Phil.
Oh, you guys know I wouldn't be anywhere else. This is what I live for.
Thanks, Phil.
We
And
also
you know
wanna
what?
Thank the Patreons.
Yeah, I was about to say that, Ryan. Why don't we also thank the Patreons? If you want to get in on the CinemaJaw action, become a JawHead, go over to patreon.com/CinemaJaw. Support the show at any level. You get access to our bonus content where we do some pretty interesting stuff. So do check it out. And if you want to support us in another way that's free, drop us a review wherever you're listening to this. Most podcast apps have a little review button. That helps a lot. It really does. It's immense. So drop us a review. Tell us your honest opinion. Say, hey, you know what? You guys suck. I love Fast and the Furious. We just want to hear from you.
Until next week, I'm Ryan, the movie guy.
I'm Matt Kay.
And keep on jawing about the movies.